Let's learn mainly about postposition particles in lesson 4 and some of the most basic sentence patterns. Let's go. What is particle? The full name of this grammatical element I use is postposition particle, but we can just simply call them particles. There are prepositions in English, right? Such as in, on, at, by, with, etc. Postposition particles are somewhat similar to English prepositions, but not exactly the same at all, but still similar. Postposition particles, as its name tells, come right after a noun, a pronoun, or a noun form. A noun form is like gerund in English, with ing at the end. Sometimes it can be added to a different element than a noun, but you don't have to know that now. It's usually added to a noun, a pronoun, and a noun form, and there is no gap between a noun and a particle in Korean. In addition, particles are not used independently. It always needs a noun right before it. There are basically two types of particles in Korean: case particles and auxiliary particles. Case particles are used to indicate the exact role of that word right before the particle. A role here means like subject, object, time, place, etc. Auxiliary particles are used to express certain nuances such as exclusiveness, uniqueness, changing the topic, etc. No worries, you'll learn them one by one. A case particle cannot be used together with other particles consecutively for one noun. Why? Obviously because one noun cannot be a subject and an object at the same time in one sentence. One noun should have one role in the sentence. That's why. The word 사과 on this page means an apple or an apology, by the way, one of those homonyms. Let's learn about the most basic but the most useful sentence pattern: subject plus object plus verb. In English, of course, a verb comes first and an object comes right after. I told you that there is no such a thing, fixed order of words in Korean. Do you remember? That's still true. But if you ask me the order people usually use, I would say subject comes first and an object comes next, followed by a verb at the end. So subject plus object plus verb. Let's learn how to say everybody's favorite, I love you. It's not my favorite, but there is something I want to tell you about this sentence. Based on the usual order that people use, the order of the words can be I, you, love. I is 저, as you know. The direct translation of the pronoun you can be 당신 in Korean. The base form of the verb to love is 사랑하다. So it's 사랑해요 in the present simple tense with the honorific suffix 요. 저 당신 사랑해요. But what you need to learn here is the fact that Korean people don't use 당신 to indicate the second person or the listener. There are two reasons. First, 당신 can sound offensive even in a normal situation, which you can think is something cultural. If you call you the second person, using you in Korean, it can sound impolite because it's too direct. My best advice for you is don't ever use it. Second, the second person you can be omitted or not used in Korean, where it is so obvious that you are talking to the second person you, so it's understood, and you don't have to say you. If I add one more reason, 당신 in Korean is strangely used to call your spouse or your partner. Especially mature couples use this. 당신 can sound offensive, but you can use it to your spouse or your partner. What does it tell you? I will leave it to you. Just do not use 당신 to anyone for now. Then you might wonder how to actually indicate the second person where you really need to indicate the second person you. You basically use this person's job title or position, last name plus job title position, or Mr., Ms. thing plus name, instead of the pronoun you. Let's talk about this in detail later again. 저, which indicates the first person I, is used most of the time, but 저 can also be omitted or understood if it's very obvious. So in some cases, you can omit or not use 저 either. Especially for this one, I love you. Koreans usually don't say I and don't say you, but just say love. So we just say 사랑해요, even without 저, because it's so obvious that I am telling you. Let's see the next sentence. The English sentence first. I like peach. Of course, in English, you say I like peaches. You would use a plural. But in Korean, plurals are used when you actually need to express that there are more than just one. Otherwise, singular would be just fine. Especially when you are talking about something as a group. You don't need to use a plural in Korean. So you say I, peach, like. What is the base form of the verb to like? Yes, 좋아하다. So, 좋아해요 in the present simple tense. I, 저, peach, 복숭아, like, 좋아해요. 저 복숭아 좋아해요. 저 복숭아 좋아해요 sounds clear enough, but let's take a look at this sentence again. 저 is a subject grammatically, and 복숭아 is an object. In Korean, you can add something right after this pronoun 저, which is the subject, and a noun 복숭아, which is the object. That's what we call a particle or a postposition particle. We're going to learn mainly about these particles in this lesson 4. Now let's learn which particle you can add to the subject and the object of the sentence. Let's use the same sentence I, peach, like. 저 복숭아 좋아해요. Let's talk about the subject first. There are two different particles you can add to indicate the subject of a sentence. First particle I want to introduce you is 는. It's either 은 or 는. It's not 는 together, okay? 은 is used where there is a final consonant in the formal block. You learned the sound linking rule, right? Where one particle has two different sounds like this, usually the one with a round empty iung consonant is added to a letter that has a final consonant. So, 은 sound is used where there is a final consonant in the formal block, and 는 sound is used where there is no final consonant in the formal block. This particle 는 is one of the auxiliary particles. What did I tell you about auxiliary particles? Yes, auxiliary particles are used to provide a certain nuance or meaning, while case particles are used to indicate the exact role of the word right before it in the sentence. What did I also tell you? Yes, you don't have to distinguish them. I call this particle 는 a topic particle. You can just remember this as a topic particle, or you don't even need to remember the name. However, you should remember the exact usages of the particle, and that's way more important. This topic particle 는 can be used to indicate the topic or to change the topic, as its name says. Or this topic particle 는 can be used to provide a nuance of comparing or contrasting. Don't think too much at this point. I'll explain more with actual examples. You can add this particle 는 to the subject 저 in this sentence. The 저 sound doesn't have a final consonant, thus you need to add 는 sound. 저는. When I hear 저는 with this particle 는, it sounds like you're saying as for me, or if I talk about myself to me. Can you feel why I said this particle 는 is used to indicate the topic or to change the topic? This 는 can also be used when you make a sentence like, my friend doesn't like Star Wars, but I like it. You can use this 는 for both my friend and I part in the sentence because you're comparing yourself with your friend or vice versa. Do you get it? So when someone asks you, what fruits do you like in Korean? You can answer, 저는 복숭아 좋아해요. Are you asking me? As for me, if I talk about myself, 저는 복숭아 좋아해요. Okay? This topic particle 는 can be added not just to a subject, but also to any noun in the sentence actually. And it provides the same nuance to that word. That's why this is not called a subject particle. There is one more particle you can add to the subject of a sentence. The subject particle, 이가. Yes, you can call this particle a subject particle. It's either 이 or 가. As the name of this particle tells us, this is one of the case particles which is used to indicate the subject in a sentence. The 이 sound is used where there is a final consonant in the formal block, and the 가 sound is used where there is no final consonant in the formal block. It's obvious now, right? 저 doesn't have a final consonant, so you need to add the 가 sound. 저 plus 가. Hold on, there is one strange thing you need to memorize here. When 저 takes this subject particle 가, 저 sound turns into 제 sound. So it's not 저가, but it's 제가. This irregular change does not happen to any word at all, so you can just remember this one, 제가. Even if you say 저가, Koreans would not think it sounds too weird since 저 means I anyway, but please try to use 제가 instead of 저가 all the time. Of course, the subject particle 이가 is used to indicate the subject, so sometimes it doesn't have any strong nuance, but just saying this is the subject. But since we also have the topic particle 는, you might want to know the difference between the topic particle 는 and the subject particle 이가, right? If you add this subject particle 이가 to the subject, it can sound more like you're saying, it is me who does or did that. It is me. So when someone asks you, who likes peaches in Korean, you can answer, 제가 복숭아를 좋아해요. Using the subject particle 가. It is me who likes peaches. 제가 복숭아를 좋아해요. Okay? That's the difference. Again, 저는 복숭아를 좋아해요 sounds more like as for me, or if I talk about myself, I like peaches. 제가 복숭아를 좋아해요 sounds more like it is me who likes peaches. Okay? See the difference? Great. Now let's learn what particle you can add to the object of a sentence. It's either 을 or 를, and it's called an object particle. Yes, this particle has only one usage. It is used to indicate the object of the sentence. So one of the case particles which is used to indicate the exact role of the word in the sentence. The 을 sound is used when there is a final consonant in the formal block, and the 를 sound is used where there is no final consonant in the formal block. 복숭아 is the object of the verb like, 좋아해요. So you can add the object particle to the object 복숭아. Which sound though? Because the last letter 아 of 복숭아 doesn't have a final consonant, you need to add the 를 sound. Let's use the topic particle for the subject 저. 저는 복숭아를 좋아해요. 저는 복숭아를 좋아해요. One good thing about this object particle is it can be omitted or not used. Then you might wonder in which case you need to use this object particle. When you want to emphasize the object or more clearly indicate the object. For example, when you say, I like this, then you can use it. In other usual cases, it can always be omitted. Now you'll be able to make hundreds of sentences based on this basic structure, subject plus object plus verb, if you know the verb and the noun that you want to use. Let's see some examples and I'll wrap up this lesson. I told you the object particle can be omitted, not used, but let's keep using it here for practice purposes. I like movies. In Korean, you can say I, movie, like. I, 저, plus the topic particle 는, 저는. movie, 영화, plus the object particle, 를, because the last letter, 화, doesn't have a final consonant. 영화를, like, 좋아해요. 저는 영화를 좋아해요. Your sister doesn't like movies. How about you? As for me, if I talk about myself, my sister doesn't like movies, but 저는 영화를 좋아해요. If you add the subject particle 가 to the subject 저, 제가, I, 제가, movie, 영화를, like, 좋아해요. 제가 영화를 좋아해요. Who likes movies? It is me, 제가 영화를 좋아해요. Next, I'm eating a meal. You can use the word 밥 to mean a meal. Any meal during the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all can be 밥. 밥 originally means cooked rice. But since Koreans eat rice at every meal, if you say 밥, people would automatically think you mean a meal. I, a meal, am eating. The present continuous tense is used. I, 저는, or 제가, a meal, 밥을, am eating, 먹고 있어요. The stem 먹 plus 고 있어요, right? 저는 밥을 먹고 있어요. Or 제가 밥을 먹고 있어요. If you don't think you need any particle for the subject I, 저, because you don't think you need to express any of the nuances each particle provides, then you don't have to use a particle for the subject I, 저. I have already told you that the object particle can also be omitted. So you can just say, 저 밥 먹고 있어요. No problem. 저 밥 먹고 있어요. Doesn't sound strange at all. Then you might want to ask why we need these particles. Believe me, you'll need them as your proficiency and fluency improve. Next, I met a friend. In Korean, it would rather be I, friend, met. It's in the past tense. Friend in Korean is 친구. 친구. So if you use the topic particle 은는, 저는 친구를 만났어요. And if you use the subject particle 이가, 제가 친구를 만났어요. I saw Amy studying in the library. What were you doing? Compared to Amy. As for me, if I talk about myself, 저는 친구를 만났어요. Not like Amy, I met a friend. 만나 plus 왔어요 becomes 만났어요. 저는 친구를 만났어요. Compared to Amy. 제가 친구를 만났어요. Of course, 제가 here can sound like you're saying it is me who met a friend. Or 제가 can sound like you're emphasizing the subject I, as if you start your own story by indicating that I, 저, is the main character in the story. 제가. If you use 저는, it can sound like you're changing the topic or you're comparing yourself with someone else. And that's not just absolutely unnecessary in this sentence, but also that creates unnecessary confusion because you're delivering unnecessary message that you didn't mean to express. So if it is confusing, and if you don't want to imply anything and don't want to express any nuances that these particles provide, then you don't have to use them. You can get rid of the particle for the subject and the particle for the object. 저 친구 만났어요. 저 친구 만났어요. And it's very good simple answer to a question like, what did you do yesterday? Please don't forget, only the particle for the subject and the object can be omitted in Korean. Other particles cannot be. It's very important. Let's learn more particles and different sentence patterns in the next lesson. See you next time.